I'm Dean Newland, and welcome to the Business of Intuition, where I coach, facilitate, train, and speak on the hard science and meaningful experience of intuitive leadership in business, so you can make better decisions, forge real connections, and creatively solve problems to amplify your impact and simplify your life. Welcome to the Business of Intuition. Imagine a small town on the southern part of Switzerland, not far from northern Italy. And imagine that when you have time, you hop on a helicopter, you go to the top of the Dolomites or other wonderful mountains there in that region and spend the afternoon skiing down an absolute pristine Swiss Alp or Italian Alp. This is the lifestyle of my guest on the Business of Intuition by the name of Gerardo Sagat. You will find out very quickly just his charm and his clarity of communication, probably because of all that wonderful fresh air. He's a leadership coach working on the national and international level. And he has developed quite an interesting process to be able to connect people back to their humanity. The idea is that great, important decisions are being made on the world stage, but we need to make sure that these leaders are connecting to their heart and their humanity before they embark on those important discussions. And that's what his purpose is all about. He came up with three wonderful quotes during my interview with him today. They were: humanity turns the impossible into the possible. The voice of your inner human is your intuition. And that world leaders, as well as all leaders, need their humanity liberated. While we were talking, he also shared a process that I'm going to share with you that you might consider answering these three questions or asking your clients or your constituents in terms of getting them connected to their humanity. They are: what is your dream? What is your greatest fragility? And what is your apology? And then to whom? I thought those are wonderful starter questions that we could use in a meeting or a facilitation in order to get us grounded in what makes us human. Gerardo Sagat has embarked upon a vision, or a journey, I should say, to infuse leadership with empathy, intuition, and genuine interaction in a transformative leap from corporate boardrooms to the heart of human connection. Following a life-changing negotiation with the Italian Prime Minister, Gerardo pivoted from a high-powered CEO to a pioneer of leadership coaching, dedicating himself to unveiling the humanity within global leaders. Through his innovative show, Out as Humans, set to be performed at the upcoming World Economic Forum, Gerardo plans to strip back the layers of formality using performing arts and storytelling to reveal the personal struggles and triumphs of those people in power. Gerardo has worked for 20 years in the family office industry as a CEO, chairman, and entrepreneur. In 2016, he exited his business and requalified himself and got himself certified as a coach with the International Coach Federation. And since 1917, he has been a leadership coach with the purpose of humanizing leaders and organizations worldwide. Over the past decade, he has been a member of YPO, YPO, the world's largest community of leaders and CEOs, and founded and chaired 2 chapters. He has a love for learning and creating. And as a coach, he has created a corporate program around the format of corporate decision-making. He has many different types of processes that he deploys. He is a postgraduate training program recipient, and his Out as Humans performing arts show has been featured in places like I just mentioned, the World Economic Forum, but also with some boards of directors and banks and corporate organizations. And as I said, he has a passion for heli skiing So, therefore, let me introduce to you wonderful conversation with a charming gentleman by the name of Gerardo Sagat. So, Geraldo, it's great to have you on the show. I have to say, I'm extremely envious of where you live. You are in southern Switzerland. You are a heliskier. You a man of many talents, many travels, and I can't wait to hear some of your stories. But let's start off with a story that you began to sort of talk about before we started this interview around when you really started to kind of tap into your intuition and how that started to influence your work and your leadership and the kinds of ways you're contributing to other leaders. So start us off with the story that I think is probably percolating for you, and I'd love to hear more about it.
Well, thank you for inviting me,
Yeah,
Dean.
you bet.
Thanks. That story is basically this, what somehow made me change from being a CEO entrepreneur of multifamily offices that I started back in the year 2000 to this new career now as a leadership coach. In 2015, I was coaching a Thai businessman in his negotiation to purchase a football club, a soccer club. Soccer is big in Italy. Okay.
Yes.
So he wanted to buy a big soccer club, one of the top Italian soccer club from a guy who used to be an Italian prime minister.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So 6 months, we started in January 2015, and we arrived to May. So 5 months of very hard. It was very difficult. This transaction seemed to die and then was rebirth. So many times, so many people having interest around families, the family office of this Italian prime minister, so many people around. It was very difficult to take it to an end. Okay. So we are the night before the signing. Okay. Signing was on the 2nd of May, 2015. 1st of May, I'm sleeping in an hotel in Milan. 2 a.m., my cell phone rings. So I answered the phone. It was 2 a.m. I was sleeping. So the phone ring, and it is the seller, the guy, the Italian prime minister, the
Hmm.
ex-Italian prime minister, on the phone, telling me, so he was on the phone, he said to me, look, I'm very sorry, but I can't get myself to sign the contract tomorrow morning at 9. We had a meeting at the lawyers to sign. It was closed, everything, the agreements, all. So the guy at 2 a.m., just 7 hours before meeting, he calls me and said, the deal is off. So I'm sorry. It was very, from the voice I could hear, it was really kind of suffering. Okay.
Hmm.
I was coaching the other party. So here is the first aspect of intuition, stroke clarity. I don't know why. Well, I actually know why now. But at that point, when I heard that and I was still sleeping, I said, okay, look, just stay there. I'm going to come to see you. Okay, so you'll tell me all about it. And it wasn't my client, it was actually the opposite side. But I
Yeah.
said, I will come to see you. So I dressed up quickly, took the car and drove there.
At 2 in the morning.
Right. Yeah. Well, it was 3
Three
a.m.
now.
When I got okay. So I get there and I get inside this big dining room, very big with a very big table. And the guy is sitting at the end of this table with his head in his hands, like this.
His, yes, his head is in his hands. Okay. Yes.
Yes. So he didn't even say hello, greet me, whatever. There was silence.
He's
Okay.
distraught.
And so here comes the second aspect of intuition. I just, I was there. Somehow I hesitated a little moment. But then I went sitting next to him, okay, and did my tie, put it on the table, and sat next to him and said, look, I'm Gerardo, your Silvio. That's his name. Tell me what's going on. So the guy looks at me And it was kind of shocked that I come at 3 a.m. to
Yeah.
see him, and that I was so informal, so human, if you want, you know. And so he stands up, opens a drawer, and pulls out his testament, handwritten testament. Okay, and he made me read a page of it where it says that the heirs could do anything they wanted with all his estate, except he asked them not to sell the house where he was at the moment and the football club.
Hmm.
Okay, so basically 7 hours before selling the club, the soccer club, he realized, he listened to his heart, and he realized that he couldn't sell it because he was so attached to it,
Yes.
and it was really struggling with this. So he made me read this page, and I didn't say anything. And then he looked at me and said, we're talking about an Italian prime minister, okay, not He looks at me and said, "What am I going to do?" A bit lost, vulnerable. He looked at me and say, What am I going to do next?" So he was asking me what to do.
Yeah.
I was advising the other party. He was asking me,
Yeah.
Italian prime minister.
Yeah.
So again, third aspect of intuition, I said, look, come tomorrow morning at the hotel, meet with him, and tell him the story.
So you mean the
Just,
person who wanted
just,
to buy it? Yeah.
yeah, just
Yeah.
come to the hotel, meet the buyer, the other guy who is ready to sign, and come and tell the story. Tell what has happened. Tell the truth.
Hmm.
Be
Hmm.
open. Just share what you shared with me. Share with him.
Hmm.
Okay, and then propose a minority deal. Okay, where you will sell the 49% of
Hmm.
that offer,
Got it.
and say, okay. So I left the place, went back to the hotel, and the guy then came. By the way, it was a big, all the media were there, all the television, everything, because, it's not, he never moves. He never goes to meet the other person. Always people go to him.
Go to him.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the first time, I said to him, look, put on the side your pride. Okay. Just take the car, come there, meet the guy, and tell him. So this is what he did. Okay. So he came the morning after to the hotel. We met in one of the rooms of the hotel, one of the meeting rooms of the hotel. And he told him the story. He told him that for the first time he listened, and that this and that it was a question of art, etc., etc. And then, he told this. He didn't really believe in it, in the sense that, it was out of comfort for him to open up in that way, and wasn't expecting it. And so he told the story. And then I remember he went to drink some coffee somewhere else. So he was, pulling down some coffee and drinking some coffee. And the Thai guy, told him, yes, okay, let's do it,
Hmm.
But he didn't listen. He didn't listen. And so I said, look, it's okay. Let's do the deal. Let's sign the deal 49%. It's fine with me. Okay. And he didn't listen. And then suddenly when he realized, he was shocked.
Hmm.
And 2 days after, the two guys signed a deal for minority purchase with a 5-page SPA, share purchase agreement, and no shareholder agreement,
Hmm.
deciding the people. So this to me was shocking. It changed my career in the sense that, I actually noticed the kind of skills I had. I noticed the ability to connect, uh, with a person quickly, and the ability to get into, something, vulnerability, fragility of people, and so, from
So
that
let me.
time onwards, I changed. I said, okay, I'm going to do coaching, and coaching specifically to humanize people organization, but specifically leaders and top leaders and world leaders, because those people many times they are left, they are continuously under the spotlight. Everybody expects from them, continuously judged, but they also need that.
So I'm going to go recap what you said here. So this was an interesting story. So you're representing a buyer who wants to purchase a soccer team, a football team from the prime minister of Italy. The Italian president calls you up at 2 o'clock in the morning and says, I'm having a second thoughts about this and I'm really upset. You come out to his place at 3 o'clock in the morning, sit down with him, hear his story, listen well, say, why don't you get together with the actual buyer, which is unheard of at the time because most people are going to the prime minister versus the other way around. Through that conversation, you end up being able to, just through your ability to listen and to allow for some vulnerable conversation to happen, that the deal went through, but not the way it originally was going to go through, but it did go through. And it sounded like this was a transition point for you. So tell us about how, I mean, this whole idea about unleashing the humanity of leaders, as I think is sort of one of the phrases that you had thrown away or thrown into this conversation, was what are you doing with that? I know that you said something earlier around the World Economic Forum that's coming up. I mean, how are you applying some of the lessons learned in this story that you just told to the work that you're doing, starting off with this upcoming event that you had described?
Uh, well, one of the things that I then started doing when I changed and I became a leadership coach and started working, because I love learning by creating. So I created various things, a coaching program, etc. But one specifically, for me, impact is a very important word. Okay, and
Say that word
I
again.
impact
Impact. Thank you.
impact
Yes.
is a very important word. And by the way, 10 years ago, I joined an organization called YPO, which
Yes.
is the world's largest community of CEOs. I saw what gave value over there, what was important for those leaders. And I said, I want to create something that I can actually go and touch world leaders. Okay. And because often, even in YPO or other communities, purposeful leaders that I'm involved with, we always we tend to hear always this sentence: use business as a force for good. Okay,
Right.
which is fine, but some often behind that there is something that I actually challenge. And what's behind that is because we can't touch world leaders, then we're going to use business as a force for good because the rest is impossible to somehow touch or to influence, etc. And I actually don't believe, because my experience has been, world leaders are human beings. They are exactly like me, you, or somebody else. And they have the same issues and they have the same fears and they have, or even more, considering they are continuously on the spotlight, continuously being judged. So this is how I came, with the idea of creating this show.
A show.
This
Yeah.
a
Okay.
show, actually, yes, a performing arts show. It's a show that somehow combines performing arts, powerful questioning, and storytelling. Okay. And take this show, 1.5 show that I feature for corporate, association, organization, take this show to world leader conventions. Okay. Not necessarily to change people, although the effect depends on the person, no? But certainly to change the interactions during that topical moment of decision making. Okay, so feature the show to liberate the humanity of people, of world leaders, so that then during those moments of where they're taking very important decisions, they interact in a different way, and therefore they take hopefully different kind of decisions.
So this show is called Out as Humans,
Out as humans.
Out as Humans, and it's interesting that the World Economic Forum is including you in this because I think most people would say, well, we don't have time for this. We got to stick to quote unquote business, which is the normal paradigm for these kinds of meetings. But the fact that they have you coming to present this is actually kind of encouraging. So, and I do think that you're onto something with respect to the way we hold our world leaders, in that we have to have them be so coached into what is the right soundbite and how do we dodge those tough questions, and because it's all about the next election and the kinds of influence we're trying to create, that to be vulnerable, to be quote unquote more human, seems to be the antithesis of the of the process by which they go through. They don't normally do that. So I think you're onto something. So how are you, well, tell us a little bit more about the show itself, and what would you hope that would come out of it at the World Economic Forum?
Well, the show itself, as I said, is it combines storytelling, powerful questioning, and performing arts. And it is built around 10 words that express our intimate humanity. So words like heart, hug, fragility, apology, soul, death. Okay. There are 10 words, and for each of these words, there is a performing art. Can be poetry, can be music, can be dancing, different kinds. There is a powerful question, and there is a bit of storytelling, personal storytelling.
Is a
Which
question given to the audience to reflect on or to engage in with the performers?
is both.
It is
Well,
okay.
is to engage with the
Interactive.
audience.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Some
Okay.
questions are self-reflection. So, you give yourself the answer.
Mm,
Some other questions, there are interactions. So you
yes.
share dreams. You share, for example, you share, there is a way that you share fragilities. So people write their most intimate fragility, and I go and collect those and I read them aloud. There is moments where I
Mm,
actually ask people to write an apology to one member of the audience, and those apology gets exchanged just after the show. Okay, so it's a show that has interactions, and that's how it is built on my experiences through YPO. By the way, in YPO, the world's largest community of CEO. Okay, 35,000 members, 150 countries. Only CEOs member. The number one reason for value of YPO worldwide is what they call forum. Forum is a specific format of meeting, monthly meeting of 8, 9, 10 CEOs that sit around the table and share updates about their
mm.
personal or professional lives in a vulnerable way. Okay. So opening up, being vulnerable, having a safe space, is number one reason for membership of 35,000 CEOs, around the world. Yeah. So what I'm hoping, I said World Economic Forum. The reality is not only World Economic Forum. I'm going into different kind of directions, very different
Yes.
from World Economic Forum. But World Economic Forum, what I want to do is feature the show when a noble purpose is attached to it, where the show is instrumental to get people more attached to a noble purpose. Okay, so being it, there are so many people, so many purposeful entrepreneurs there.
Yes.
Okay, featuring the show, because the show, the effect is unleashing the humanity of people. Those people in the audience will be more, if you want, more listening to what you've got to say about whatever the noble purpose is or the noble initiative that you are suggesting, being a registration, subscription, fundraising, for whatever reason.
It's a way of changing their mindset and making them more open and sounds like more vulnerable to the conversation,
Well, it is,
prepping them.
if you are more human than any human causes, you will listen more and you
Yes.
would support more. and you would want more, etc.
Yes.
Okay, so that's a
Yeah.
way. The other way is the topical decision moments. Okay, so when feature the show during World Leader Convention, Week in Davos, COP, whatever,
Mm,
those big moments. This is what I want the show to get to, and so that it unleashes the humanity, and it changes because of the experience they go through. It changes the way people interact. So they listen more. So they are more patient. So they are more open.
mm.
So the way they interact when they take the decision, because interactions will be more humanized, therefore decision will
Very
be more.
good. Tell me about something that's called corporate decision making debate. What is that?
Uh, well, that's I think something that has the autism humans and that has in common is the fact that often being a leader is a place of solitude,
Hmm.
is a place of loneliness. Okay,
Yes.
and um, I think one of the way that it manifests is that we tend to take decisions uh, ourselves, but when there's the stakeholder, it's not only ourselves; it is a certain number of people.
Yes.
Okay, and so something that I wanted to do is to say, okay, let's some of the decisions that leaders take, could be taken by a larger group of people,
Yes.
also that are the stakeholders of that specific decision. How do I do that? And so I said, okay, debate is a way to do that. Okay, so I wanted to take debate into corporate decision making,
Mm,
any level. Might be board, do we acquire this company or not acquire this company?
mm.
Do we do this, yes or no? Okay, and make a debate. So at board level, at company level, or whatever decision. And so I created this kind of format of debate that I called Vebate with a V, voting debate,
Voting.
voting
Okay.
debate, where so there's a moderator. I moderate. There are two people. One supports yes, we do it. The other one supports no, we don't do it. And then there is an audience. So we start with an initial vote about that particular decision. And then there's the debate. So I ask questions that take people more, deep down into reasons, the values, why you do this, etc. And then there are questions from the audience. And then, then the two people can make their final, remarks. Sometimes, often I actually ask them to exchange positions.
Hmm.
So the no goes to yes and the yes goes to no. And that somehow, mixes up, creates new space for something new to come out. And then
Yes.
you have a final vote. And that final vote, either it's the decision or it is an indication given to management to take the decision, at corporate level. So sometimes this debate go at the level of the board. Other times they go at the level of the full company. Other times they go at the level of a particular, group of people within the company because of the decision that is taken. The reason is some decisions uh, are taken by one people, but they actually touch many other people. And it is a way to involve and get other people involved and feel more involvement, participation in the decision-making process, etc.
You mentioned decision making as being obviously it's such an important part of teams and organizations. Could you speak a little bit about how intuition might actually be a part of or a component of a good decision?
Okay, for me, well, I'll tell you a little bit, coming back to the example I've given before. I think that we are born with clarity. So, when we are born, the natural state of being that all of us have is clarity. Then what happens is we get thrown labels, we get educated in a certain way, we get events, life events, traumatic events, whatever. There are things happening in our lives that take us on a path that is not ours and that makes us behave in a way that is not our authentic selves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, somebody fortunately has gifted us with a tool, which is intuition, that somehow makes us see in the right way.
Mm.
Okay. So, in the right way, I mean what is good for us, what goes towards our authentic self, what goes, therefore, goes for our success, our growth, etc. But for me, intuition is a tool that is there to navigate fears, diversions, labels, things that come in the life of people. If we decide, or because of life events, because of whatever reason, to take a moment and say, okay, now I'm going to be my authentic self and I'm going to walk the path that is being created for me, that is my path.
Mm-hmm.
That point, for me, intuition becomes clarity. Okay.
Mm.
So the space, what happens in decision making for me, one of the effects that I've seen so many times, and I've seen in that example that I mentioned to you, is intuition stroke clarity, make, give, or actually, it is the opposite. When you are yourself, when you are connected with your human being, uh, your intuition becomes clarity. And what you get is, I think, and what I've seen is radical clarity.
Mm.
How does that affect decision making? It affects because you're able to create, to spot things that you cannot normally spot. And I give an example, win-win scenarios. Okay.
Win-win.
Win-win scenarios.
Yeah.
You're able to see in a decision, you're able to see the decision that is win-win. And in that it's always there, you know, it's always there.
Mm.
In any scenario, there is a win-win. In any decision, there is a win-win scenario. Okay. The way that you spot that is intuition stroke clarity. Okay.
It's interesting you mentioned.
Impossible to possible is another situation that, so what looks impossible, making it possible.
Uh-huh.
It's another situation that is strongly affected and influenced and directed by intuition, clarity.
It's interesting. You're talking. It reminds me of that this idea that a lack of clarity begets a lack of clarity. Confusion begets confusion. It's an attraction towards itself, and that you have somebody who is highly intuitive. What I've noticed is that it sparks the intuition of other people. It creates that space. It's much like your example earlier around the more vulnerable Italian prime minister created a space for a vulnerability on the other side of that transaction. That intuition can also, in one person, inspire that same
Yeah.
level of clarity in another person.
But yes, and I will tell you why it's like that. Intuition is a voice of your inner human being.
Yeah.
Is the voice of your inner human being where somehow you are uncertain or going, walking a strange path or not. When it's foggy, your inner human being speaks through intuition. Okay. Now, okay, if you're walking your path, your direction, and you're your true self, there is clarity from my
Mm.
perspective. Intuition helps you navigate, it's your, inner human being voice talking to you. Okay. So why that is contagious? Because humanity is contagious. Because, being your true self, being your authentic self, being human, being vulnerable is contagious. And I'm going to give you an example of this. Okay. One of the things that I do, I go to boards of corporate, bank, financial institution to give a 1 hour speech about vulnerability. Okay, so recently I was at a bank in London. The board of this bank, I had this 1 hour meeting with the board of this bank. There were other 3 boards of offices of other locations connected via Zoom. I get into the room 15 minutes before the meeting. There is the IT guy. I say, oh, hi, how are you? Very good. Okay. 4 o'clock, people start walking in the boardroom. They don't even come to say hello to me. They don't come, oh, hi, or don't even say hello from distance. Nothing, ignored, like if nobody was in the room. Okay. They speak to each other. They don't even know the reason why they're there at that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So they sit down. The event is 1 hour, half an hour talk about the positive effects of vulnerability, creating trust, the effect on performance, et cetera, et cetera. The other half an hour is, what I do in Out as Humans. It is an exercise of sharing fragility. So I share my most intimate fragility, and I ask these people around the table to do the same, write it on a post-it note of different colors, and they write it and give it to me. And then I read aloud what's on the post-it note. Okay. Now, the thing on the post-it note is sexual violence, things like this, mental disorders. It gets so profound.
Yeah.
People cry. Okay. They hug each other. In that bank, people were crying, hugging each other. Okay. After 1 hour, they came and hugged me from nothing to this.
Or the impossible to possible.
Well, in half an hour, but humanity makes the impossible become possible. Humanity turns intuition, which is your safety net voice, into clarity. And and humanity is contagious and much more accessible than what we may normally think. Now, how does it? It clicks leading by example.
Yeah.
It clicks by, why does it click? Because I share my most intimate fragility. And people are just waiting, any people, leaders, any leaders, even the world leaders, are craving to find themselves into spaces where they can be who they truly are.
It's really good. Gerardo, there's some great quotes that you have already caused me to write down. A few of them are the voice of your inner human being is intuition. I love that. Humanity turns the impossible to the possible. I think you've got, this is not a new topic. We've heard about this before, but you have a wonderful heart and a wonderful spin and a wonderful approach to be able to bring out that kind of fragility, as you say, with our leaders. As we kind of close out here, how can people follow what you're doing and connect to you out of this conversation?
Well, just visit my website, gerardosegat.com /Out as Humans. They find all information about the show, clips, videos, anything related to the show and about me and what I do.
That's fantastic. And good luck with your next meeting. You said the World Economic Forum, is that right?
Yes. But I'm going to tell you a further development step. Okay.
Yeah.
Today, there is a show with me featured. I'm hosting. It's built around my story. But something that we are starting to do is creating Out as Human show, the same concept around other people's story. So what's going to happen is I'm going to fill the world with Out as Human shows and hopefully humanize leadership, which is my purpose.
It's a great purpose. It's a wonderful, humanizing leadership. what could be more altruistic and important, especially in the day in which we live, where being disconnected and lonely and isolated, it's still, post-COVID, where we've sort of lost the ability to create those meaningful connections. I can't think of anything more important. So thank you so much for your time. It's been so great to get to know you.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you for having me.
You bet.
Thank you for listening to The Business of Intuition. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to learn more about Dean or Mission Facilitators Leadership, go to mfileadership.com. That's mfileadership.com.